Well, hello guys, and welcome back to another Rick and Morty review. In this episode, we'll be taking a look at Season 3, Episode 6, Rest in Ricklaxation? However you pronounce that second word, or third word. Oh, and hey, we're back to the normal format. And it's good because this episode is really good. Oh, the entire time I was watching it, all 3 times I watched it, I just had a smile on my face. I was constantly laughing. Oh, it's good to have a good episode again. Well, I feel like I keep digging my grave deeper here, but, I've been very negative this season, right? But at the end of the day, I don't actually hate any of the episodes we've seen so far. They're on the lower end of Rick and Morty episodes, but the lower end of Rick and Morty episodes is still good, right? They're all good episodes, and this one's really good. I don't know if it's as strong as the season 3 premiere. It isn't, but it's still really enjoyable. So it starts off, the opening for this episode, before we get the intro, is the greatest opening in this entire show. It starts off, right? Jessica's now single, and Morty goes to talk to her or whatever. Who knows what he was actually trying to do. And Rick's like, oh, we gotta go on an adventure, 20 minutes tops. We jump cut to 6 days later, where shit's just gone out of control, and they're basically parroting the end of Revenge of the Sith, right? They blow up the Death Star, get this crystal, and then they're in the car, and they're just freaking out, right? Because what they just did was so fucked up, right? They did the end of Revenge of the Sith, blew up the Death Star and all that, and Rick had no control over the situation. It was just chaos. This is the greatest opening to any episode. I've referenced it before, because back before season 3 had premiered, we had like 2 or 3 clips that we had seen of the season, and this in Pickle Rick fighting the rats was the other one. So when I first saw this, I was like, yep, this is amazing. And it's still amazing. I love it. I love this. I love this opening. It's the best. Right? And so after the intro, they're at the spa, right? They're just relaxing, right? Because they need the vacation. And they go into this psychological detox, right? Which removes all the things they hate about themselves. And boom, it activates, and all of a sudden they're in like this toxic wasteland. They're all covered in goo, and they're like, oh, it blew up, right? The guy blew them all up, right, to get rid of them. And at first it's like, okay, Morty's being extremely passive, Rick's being extremely aggressive as they're in this toxic waste trying to get around. And I was like, wait, are they doing like a Total Recall style thing where they're like their entire personalities got put inside of the detox booth, right? Because they're talking about the world blowing up. I'm like, no, that's not it. They're inside the booth. Because their entire personality is toxic, right? Because haven't we seen something like this before in the show with Rick, where he like removed all his negative emotions, or Tiny Rick, where he repressed all his negative emotions, and all of his negative emotions basically are Rick, right? And then we cut back, and we see that nope, regular Rick and Morty without all their toxins are perfectly fine, and they've basically become better people, right? Rick no longer has all of his inhibitions that make him self-destructive, and Morty's no longer just a spineless weakling. So yeah, they're doing a lot better. But Rick is able to use the toxic and basically invent electricity, and he keeps calling himself a god. It's funny. This episode is just so funny. Oh god, I love it. It's not like I can't think of a good episode to compare it to, but it's not like the constant joke, right, where there's a joke every like few seconds. It's only a joke every like half minute to minute, but almost all of them hit, right? And we see Morty at school, and he's the king, right? He's the king of class now. Everybody loves him, right? He's become Tiny Rick. Well, not the asshole. But, right, he's now the popular kid, and he finally scores a date with Jessica. But Rick finds out about the toxicity still being there. And, of course, Morty wants nothing to do with it, right? You see, obviously, where it's going. That Morty wants to sabotage him because he doesn't want his toxicity back. He likes himself without the toxicity. And Rick being Rick, right, because technically all the toxicity is the real Rick. So the real Rick is basically locked away, so he wants it back, right? Morty goes on a date with Jessica. They're not clicking, right? Because Morty's a little too hyper, a little too energetic. So the date doesn't go well, but instead he goes up to the bar and is all charismatic. Well, charismatic for a Morty, right? It's not perfect, but he gets a girl. He gets more than one in this one. Which he's 14. Oh God. You know, I'm annoyed with myself. At some point during my second viewing of this episode, I thought of an idea for to put a .mp4 in this video, and then by the time I started up my third viewing, I just couldn't remember it. And I'm reading my notes like, did I give a hint to myself somewheres in here? I probably forgot it. But we see Rick, and he's basically connected with the other side, right? The toxic Rick and Morty. And their goal is he creates like a transfer thing to get them back inside. But instead, evil, angry, toxic Rick planned to switch their places, right? So that he'd be free from the inhibitions of normal, healthy Rick. Even though, again, they're kind of the same thing. And at first, Morty hooks up with this girl, and she pushes them out and while stuck in the chamber, and I was like, oh my gosh, is she going to get all the powers of a Rick? No, she's just stuck in the toxicity world, right? But it was at this point that I was like, oh, the episode must be over. What, we've got like a few minutes left? This is only 13 minutes in. There were still 9 more minutes in this episode, and I was like, and I thought it was over. I thought it was almost done. Whether that means the episode is slow, it could mean the episode is slow, and I wouldn't put it past you, because compared to something like Pickle Rick, it's not action-packed, even though we're just about to get into the action. But in my view, what it means is that the episode does a lot in a very short amount of time, right? Like, I always praise Steven Universe for doing so much in an 11-minute time period, while I shit on something like Adventure Time for doing nothing in 11 minutes. Of course, they can switch, but this episode did that. In 13 minutes, I felt like they did a lot. Alright, but we have the Rick and Toxic Rick fight scene. Again, there's some good jokes. But the fight, it's fine. It's not as action-packed as Pickle Rick, but it works. I like the chest burster thing, right? Where he shoots the thing into the neck, and he chest bursts out of Toxic Rick, and then, right, they kind of switch, right? That's good. This episode's got multiple movie references. And I didn't even bring up, when I was watching this, I was like, what does this remind me of? Because I've seen this plot done before. And while I can't think of my original, my original example where I swear something was done literally just like this with like the toxic form and everything. My first idea was the abrasive side, which is a SpongeBob episode, but I don't think that fully covers it. And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, it's the Dexter's Lab one. I don't remember what it's called. You know, the band one where they swear and whatnot. Well, the one that was rumored to exist and then kind of confirmed, and then it actually came out. I remember when that happened. That was only a few years ago now. But I think it's that. I don't remember what the episode is called, though. But it's the same premise, right? But eventually Beth walks in, and it's interesting because you see Rick cares about Beth and Summer, but he doesn't care about Morty, right? Because he realizes that, oh, he doesn't care about Morty. Because how the toxicity machine works is it takes away what you don't like about yourself, which, again, is a concept I swear I've seen somewhere else before. But I don't... Oh my god, it's the 5th Star Trek movie. That's it, isn't it? But, right, so Rick realizes the solution. Evil Rick creates a machine to make everyone toxic, which it works, and there, again, it's really funny. It's not constant, but when it's there, it's good. It's so good. But eventually, Rick confronts evil, toxic Rick with, oh, I don't care about Morty, so you must care about Morty, right? Because I got rid of because one of the things I hate about myself is my irrational attachments, which means that, yes, Rick does care about Morty. I know a lot of people were talking in, Vindicators 3 that about the whole thing is with the noob twist, and did Rick actually care about Morty? This one kind of right, it basically confirms it. But because Toxic Rick actually cares about Morty. And Rick is able to remerge with Toxic Rick, and right before Morty can reform with Toxic Morty, Morty flies away, because again, he doesn't want his toxicity back, because he's a much better person, right? He likes himself a lot more, which is the twist I saw coming from the very beginning. And then we smash cut to 3 weeks later, and he's now become a Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street type of guy, right? Making big money as a stockbroker. He's dating a lovely girl, right? His life is basically perfect. He's the perfect man now, right? Everything's going great for him. But Jessica calls him. He forgets to hang up the phone. Maybe on purpose, maybe on accident. And he's turned back into normal Morty, which, if you notice something, when you look at the healthy versions and the toxic versions, notice there's a color difference, right? Non-toxic and non-toxic is just a tiny bit lighter than when they're both combined. It's a slight detail, but it's a nice one. And then we get Jessica and Rick arguing, which one of them is right? Who knows? Does it matter? They're both right. They're both wrong. And then at the end, we see Jessica say to Morty, right as he goes back on an adventure, that, oh, it's good to have you back. Meaning, does she care about him? Yeah, I mean, like, they kind of have had an off and on relationship ever since, was it the season? Well, I mean, not including Rick Potion number 9, because again, they Cronenberged that world. I guess since the season 1 finale, right? Because they've dated, right? They've broken, they didn't date, but you know what I'm being reminded of? Spider-Man Homecoming, right? Spoilers. Where the girl, at the ending, the girl just kind of, even though their chemistry isn't really strong, he asks her to prom, and she's just like, yeah, sure. That's kind of what this ending moment reminds me of, where it's not the worst, but it's not as well done as it could have been. And in the end credits scene is Stacy, right? The girl Morty hooked up with at the bar. She escapes the toxic world. And that's where it ends. There's also a really freaking weird song in the end credits. Yeah. Overall, the episode is... I enjoyed it, right? I had a smile on my face. It was really enjoyable. And I'm glad I finally really enjoyed an episode for once. Because I don't like being negative, but if I don't like the episode, I don't like the episode. There's not much I can do. And again, there's no such thing as a bad Rick and Morty episode. Now we don't actually have an episode next week. I don't think it's the week after that. But then the week after that, we have Rick and Morty go to Atlantis. Okay, we'll see. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Until next time, peace.